furniture is an integral part of city design. What we're obviously seeing is 70% of the world's population is going to live in cities in the next 10, 20 years, which means urban developments have a responsibility to ensure that they're most livable possible, not just vertical metropolises without life. So the urban furniture, common spaces, community spaces along these cities are essentially going to start defining how people living there feel about it. And that means a lot of focus needs to be paid to these areas. And compared to the last 10, 20 years, the next 10, 20 years are going to be even more integral as we see self-driving cars, which is going to reduce traffic and increase pedestrian traffic, increase in bicycle pathways and so on. So making cities livable will eventually rotate around the public spaces and how inviting and exciting designers, architects, municipalities and city councils can make. Design is essential for almost any product or any element, but especially so for products that come in contact with human beings. So that makes street furniture design even more important than, let's say, design holistic area. These are elements that come in contact with people. What's more important to consider is we're looking at design being quintessential for the future because we have an entire generation growing up with social media and being glued to their phones. So the whole idea of anti-lonely furniture elements, anti-lonely public spaces is going to take on a whole new meaning as we look at loneliness being the number one mental illness in almost all of the developed nations. So design is important as it is, but it's going to be even more important to consider how furniture connects people in the coming years, considering, let's say, some unknown dangers that we face, including mental anxiety associated with loneliness. Street furniture is definitely characteristic to the city and has a personality of its own, but I think more what you're observing is clusters, a city within cities, and each having its own identity. So street furniture for each of those clusters starts to define the identity of the place. So financial centers have a different feel and look compared to residential communities, suburban areas, and let's say the Cornish and the beach. So city design and city furniture definitely adds personality to the location, but it's more cluster specific rather than the city as a whole. Street furniture quality is something that's central to what we do, and I think it has to be across the globe, primarily because every time the product is manufactured and tossed away, manufactured again, tossed away, you're just increasing the amount of waste that's been spewed into dump sites. So our entire focus is to offer long-term value products that eventually last 10 to 50 years. We offer a guarantee of 50 years of granite elements and 10 years for painted surfaces. How we go about doing this, we consider the most aggressive atmospheric conditions, C5N conditions to be the norm, and we salt test our elements for these conditions, and that's a way we guarantee that the steel, the surface coating of the paint on the steel is able to withstand that level of exposure. The same goes for timber, which we coat with a specific kind of silica-based solvent that ensures really long-term value for the product. Furniture for the future is going to be even more essential. When you're looking at a set of benches, rollers, bike racks, the idea is we're looking at a generation that's going to grow up entirely glued to the phone, and community living or familiar living as we know it is also going to go even further, which means these public spaces, these public elements might even have responsibility to try and connect people. Be places where you can actually get off your phone, come outside, meet a couple of real people. It's just not possible for 100,000 years of evolution of community living, familiar living, all of a sudden be taken over by a cybernetic social network. It just cannot. It just cannot possibly overtake the actual physical presence of humans next to each other, and that's what I think is where street furniture is going to go ahead in terms of urban spaces. where they can be the literal only community points where people living entire lives online on the metaverse, on social networks, can come out and actually physically meet and connect with real people. And I think this is something that city designers and product manufacturers like this need to take into consideration, considering what the social behavioral aspects of people are going to be 10, 20 years from now. We had a generation that grew up with newspapers stuck to their hand, now tablets and iPhones, and eventually possibly Google glasses, Apple glasses, what have you. So the electronic integration is going to keep hyping up over time, but then there's going to be a definite disconnect for physical human connections, which I think urban spaces are helpful for.